We have a rough route defined for our journey around the world, and the past 5 years of overlanding through South, Central and North America has taught us that rough roads will be unavoidable whilst we travel overland. Our Kombi is already rear-wheel drive, with the weight of our CB Performance air-cooled engine directly over the wheels. It's already very capable. But what modifications have we made to improve Boomerang's overlanding capability?
One of the best additions that you can add, especially for an overlanding adventure like this with a two-wheel drive vehicle, is a posi traction unit. So it's basically a limited slip differential that helps your van act more like a four-wheel drive in low traction situations. So for instance, you're likely to be crossing a lot of sand, and sand can be really challenging for two-wheel drive, as you know. Basically, the limited slip differential allows, when one wheel loses traction, it automatically biases more power to the wheel that has traction, which allows you to get out of sticky situations much better than just a stock two-wheel drive. And we see lots of really outfitted two-wheel drive vehicles that can handle almost any terrain that a synchro can handle, with the exception of really, really deep sand, which really requires four-wheel drive. But posi traction is fantastic, and I think that's going to be a real boon for you and your adventures.
Jad's sentiments about upgrading the differential were echoed by Mike from Rancho Performance Transaxles.
The other thing is I would like to suggest to you is putting like a limited slip in it. That torque biasing differential would definitely do a big improvement on your traction.
Rancho made a custom transaxle to upgrade our Kombi transmission to improve on what originally came with the vehicle.
When you have an open differential, when you apply power in a slippery surface, it generally tries to drive one wheel and the other tire will stay. It slips and you can't go anywhere. If you're stuck in mud, you'll be stuck. If you go into a limited slip type of a differential, a torque biasing or a clutch style, LSD, it distributes the power equally to both wheels and allows you to get over uneven terrain or slippery terrain a lot easier.
Having Pelican posi traction differentials installed has already proven useful, and we've already been able to pull ourselves out of low traction situations that would have otherwise resulted in a more troublesome recovery. Speaking of recovery,
one of the things I'm sure you've taken into consideration is just the idea of being self-sufficient when you're out there traveling solo, overlanding across these kind of desolate landscapes that you'll be crossing. And having a really good winch system is key to your survival and being able to get your van out of really poor situations. So having a winch allows you to basically pull the van off any stable structure and self-rescue out of really deep sand or really deep mud, or maybe the van's gotten off kilter in some really deep ruts or potholes, and the winch will allow you to pull yourself out of those situations. Another piece of really important self-recovery gear is a high lift jack. So a regular jack will get you out of certain situations like a flat tire and such, but a high lift jack can be used for more than that. It's a safer way to jack up the vehicle, to change a tire or something simple like that. But it's also a self-recovery system for deep sand or mud. High lift jacks come in very, very handy. So that's certainly a piece of kit that I'd consider for you guys.
So the high lift jack is a great overlanding tool. It really should be in everybody's recovery arsenal. It's in ours because basically this vehicle, like many overlanding vehicles, is slightly higher. A lot of people raise their vehicles for ground clearance so they can get to more remote places, and as such stock jacks no longer will reach the vehicle enough for you to be able to change a tire or put it onto jack stands or something like that. And that is the case with the Kombi. Even though it hasn't been raised significantly, it's still difficult for us to be able to jack it up with a standard bottle jack or scissor jack. So the high lift jack, that's where that comes in. So in this situation here, I've got it in the rear hitch mount on this Go Westy bumper. Go Westy actually supplied us with this high lift jack as well, actually, so thumbs up to those guys, thank you very much. So right now we're not in a recovery mode, But if we were, and we didn't have any traction on our wheels, we would be able to jack this up by the rear hitch, and using these sand ladders that we've got from camper van culture, these are aluminium, very lightweight, very strong. We'd be able to lift this up so the back wheels were off the ground, slot under our sand ladders, and basically be able to get traction and then pull ourselves out of a sticky situation. So it's very useful. It's also possible to use it as a come along. You can actually use this as a poor man's winch as well. So it's a very useful tool. However, it's a big old unit.
Shocks are another thing you're going to want to look at upgrading for your overlanding adventure. We worked with Fox, one of the leading shock manufacturers in the world, to create a really modern custom shock system for the Vanagon and for the Synchro in particular. These shocks are really badass.
Let's talk about shocks. Okay, so since you guys are going on this big trip, you know, you're going to be going through a lot of off-road, on-road, all that type of stuff. The factory shocks that were on the bus are no good. You're probably going to go through a few sets of them. So, you know, here at Go Westy, we ran into that issue, and that's why we came out with these adjustable Fox shocks, which these are perfect for both on and off-road use. They have an external reservoir, which is really nice for washboards, extended use on a washboard, because you know, we had issues with them boiling over, and then you just blow out the shock and now you need a new shock.
That's the concern I have. The shocks that we have at the moment are great for the kind of first part of the trip, but when we get into those kind of like 100-mile off-road sections, we don't want them overheating. Having an external reservoir like you guys have on this Fox shock, but this was specifically made for you guys, right?
Correct.
At Go Westy.
Because we used to do, you know, we still do these extended trips through Baja where you're going hundreds of miles of washboards, and we just got tired of having to constantly swap out shocks. And these are tried and true. They're perfect for that type of endurance, you know.
How come you didn't make them for the bus, man? Because that's what we need.
Yeah, I'm not in charge of that department.
Damn it.
It would be perfect for a bus, but we don't expect people to be doing trips like this in buses.
No, because the Vanagon is a better vehicle for that.
Yeah.
It really is. Unfortunately, high quality shocks wasn't available for our rig until just recently. Actually, Go Westy have since developed a high performance Fox shock that can fit on a bus. They've always been available for Synchros and Vanagons, but only recently on the bus. And so we are currently saving up for these Fox shocks because we're going to need them.
As we've mentioned before in our security video, we try to avoid driving at night as much as possible, but sometimes it's not always possible. So that's why we've been testing out these things.
The LED headlights that we offer are a vast improvement over the stock system. They provide way better lighting and they draw considerably less power, so it's kind of a no-brainer as far as headlights are concerned.
This is a really simple upgrade. It's really easy to change. They just exchange and bolt right in, and it's going to make a huge difference because our old lights were really low and bad.
LED headlights are considerably safer as well. They provide better illumination for nighttime driving with less artifacts that you'll find with kind of the stock headlight system.
These LED headlights that we got from Go Westy are an absolute game changer. Not only is it so much safer because we can actually see everything on the road and any animals running out, the vision is significantly further. I can't even begin to tell you what an improvement these have made. Also though, they're not hot, and that's because obviously they're LED, so they're using less power. We only run a 55 amp alternator on this thing, so we don't want to be stressing it out by having all the lights running. We already have to charge a large battery bank, so these things are absolutely essential for us. I recommend anybody that has a bus to change up to get these. They're not quite the classic look, you know, they are LEDs, they are a little bit different, but it's honestly worth it, and I definitely wouldn't go back.
We have since added these stainless steel headlight grills from Just Campers, and they do protect the headlights from stones, but they do have the side effect of looking awesome.
Okay, let's talk about tyres. This Kombi has a huge limitation when it comes to tyres, so it was absolutely essential for us that we ditch the stock rims for this expedition.
So let's talk about wheels and tires.
All right.
You know, upgrading to a 16-inch tire is really popular, and I would highly recommend it. Most people go that route. They like having better ground clearance. They like the availability of more options on a 16-inch rim.
Yeah. See, I don't think a 16 is going to fit. And the main reason that we want to upgrade to a larger tyre is because we just can't find decent 14-inch tyres anymore that are rated for the weight of the bus. This is true. We ran stock 14-inch rims all the way from Chile to Arctic Alaska and replaced and repaired tyres a number of times. Availability of properly rated 14-inch tyres was and still is terrible, and occasionally the lack of availability caused us to run tyres beyond optimum conditions, which was actually downright dangerous. Oh my god, full on shaking, like I wasn't driving that fast, and like the car just completely lost it. We've been worried about this slippy mud all day, like we've been driving like, I don't know, a couple of 100 miles or something on this dirt road, and the car literally went all the way sideways, and then I was like on the wheel like, and then it went all the way the other way, and then like we managed to pull it out like this, but that was the most out of control that I've been on this entire trip. So it's a real problem for us. We do need to upgrade, but you guys only have them in steel at 16 inches.
Yeah.
And for a bus, I just don't think that I don't think the clearance is going to work.
Yeah, I don't think so either. So, I mean, it's tricky. I mean, even upgrading to a 15-inch steel wheel and finding a tire, because you're going to have better options, more options finding tires for a 15-inch, especially when it comes to like these off-road BFGs, which you're going to be airing down, you want the sidewall, that type of thing.
Yeah, because I think we can actually fit the 16-inch steels that you guys stock on the bus, but with a different tyre.
Oh, like a road tyre?
Yeah, that's the issue. Like it has a Michelin road tyre, which to be honest, is a really good tyre and would be great for us crossing the States and all around Europe. But eventually, we want to go into the mucky stuff. You know, when we're heading off across Central Asia, we need to have this kind of tyre capable of doing off-road stuff. And 16-inch with a high wall tyre like that, work. It isn't going to work.
Just drive around air down half the time.
Very slowly. I think you guys are going the right way from upgrading the stock wheels to these 16-inch wheels on a Vanagon. Totally makes sense. We want to borrow the same kind of thinking for our bus, but I think the search goes on for that perfect wheel tyre combination for us.
Yeah, it's a bummer.
Unlike aluminium rims, steel rims can be repaired with one of these or by welding if we were to hit a rock or a curb. So the search for steelies on this expedition took us all the way to the UK and to adventure campervan outfitters, Campervan Culture.
These guys have been everywhere from the Arctic Circle to Morocco and beyond. Their video series documenting their overlanding adventures has been inspirational in our own planning and has helped fuel our wanderlust whilst we've been building our rig.
The Campervan Culture overland rigs showcase their tried and tested gear that they sell, and their rigs are phenomenal. They also just so happen to be the supplier of 15-inch steel wheels which fit perfectly on a V-dub camper. That's them. These are the wheels that are going around the world. Look at them, they're actually really nice. Boomerang spanking new wheels. I can't believe that there's still some of these wheels left. These are 15-inch steel, super strong wheels made to fit on either the T25 like the Vanagon or a bus. This is an investment in our future. We are now going to be able to hopefully find the right tyres to take us around the world. It's from these guys, Campervan Culture. Jed, Dan, I really wish you guys were here for me to meet you, but unfortunately those guys are off on an adventure in Germany with their rig, so they've very kindly left these wheels out for us to come and collect. That is objective 1 complete, wheels collected, and now we need to go find ourselves some expedition rubber. This is our new wheel from Camper Van Culture. It's a 15-inch wheel. This is our previous standard stock 14-inch wheel. This tyre is a Michelin Latitude Cross. I think it's going to be much better on sand and for the varied type of terrain that we're going to be driving on. The previous ones were old BF Goodrich all-terrain tyres. Mud and snow, these were KOs. They don't make these anymore. And if you see on one side, there is a really bad wear pattern. These were notorious for not having very long life, and that is what's happened when our alignment has not been quite right. We have completely ripped through this tyre and it is basically not serviceable anymore. I obviously can't get any more replacements for it. They looked badass, I do like them. They had great traction in mud and grass, but alas, we will now be running these ones instead. Now, let's have a look at the difference. So the wider tyre is going to be great for getting ourselves out of sand. We're going to have much better traction. We're on the slippy stuff. The downside is it's going to be an increased wear on both the steering box and also probably the wheel bearings. And the vehicle was not designed for it. I'm just hoping that it's going up just this little bit is not going to be too much of a strain. Luckily, because both the wheels are roughly the same size, after the tyres are put on, there isn't any effect on our speedometer, which is nice. The only last remaining issue might be the clearance between the wheel and the tyre and the fender here. Luckily, because of this, the dynamics of this wheel that we've got here, there is clearance, so we're quite happy with that. And also on the front, there's also clearance here. We've got no problems with turning, and there's enough clearance for the whole wheel. They are definitely bigger than they were before. A notable improvement.
We also picked up some heavy-duty sand loaders from Camper Van Culture. These will be used for self-recovery when we do find ourselves stuck. We opted for aluminium as they are still lightweight, but are harder wearing than the commonly used orange plastic alternatives.
Of course, anyone who's been stuck in sand should know that the first thing you do when you lose traction is air down your tyres. We used to do this all the time whilst travelling places like Baja, California. Astonishingly, we didn't have an onboard compressor for that expedition, but we weren't going to make that mistake this time.
An onboard air compressor is another piece of gear that's real essential for overlanding. It allows you to quickly air up your tires after you've aired down to cross sandy, muddy terrain, which you're likely to do often.
On Vanagons, we like to remove the city water hookup box and install the air compressor there.
Well, you can put it that's awesome.
So it's real nice, it looks clean, super practical. You know, it comes with a long enough air hose.
So you've got a compressor that's already wired in one location. Let's have a look where you've installed it. How big is this thing? Like, can we fit this in a bus?
It's pretty small. It's super compact. It's smaller than some of the ones I've seen that go in a cigarette lighter.
Oh Jesus, look at that.
So we put it, you know, and if you have an auxiliary battery too, that's really the way to go. But you can see there's some orange hose here.
Yep, and that goes to the easy
that goes
access.
to that guy.
That's so much easier, that's way better.
Some people too, they like to add an external tank, which is nice because then you can kind of like, if you let it fill up the tank, and then you can kind of work and you don't have to wait as long for the compressor to kick up. Kicks on, there's a pressure switch, kicks off, pump up your tires, good to go.
There is one major problem with adding all this equipment. It was starting to push our Kombi close to the limit of what it was designed to handle. And trust me, I know firsthand what happens when you overload a VW bus. We had structurally reinforced the Kombi shell and upgraded the rear suspension for heavy-duty torsion bars.
0.5, 0.4, 0.1. A little bit more.
I think that's close enough. We've basically got to the maximum amount of preloading on these red torsion bars. This one will allow us to take approximately 50 kilograms more weight, which is basically an extra water tank. We'd replaced broken front torsion leads with a brand new set. Looks to me like that's already cracked there. That one's missing. From there, must be still inside there somewhere. Okay. So that is it. The portion leads from Just Campers. Now our whole front end is back together. Thankfully, it took a bit longer than I was hoping, but it's quite a big job. This is our stabilizer bar. This one's much stronger. It was a pig to do, but this will be better handling, and also it'll be less likely to bend. The previous one we had in Capito, our last Kombi, it bent because we smashed it into some rocks overlanding. So I upgraded this. I decided not to upgrade the track rods and tie rods because as much as I think that they are going to also bend, I didn't want to make them too strong, because then if I hit something, it might bend something else in the steering that isn't supposed to bend. This can handle it. Track rods can't. The Kombi was sitting good and was within the weight allowance. Okay, we're not allowed to film on the weigh scales, but we have weighed in empty without much stuff in here, no water or anything like that. 1,900 kilograms. If we run our rig this heavy on the journey we have planned, we run the risk of overstressing our Kombi. And protecting the heart of our rig, our CV Performance engine, must be our #1 priority. So at this point, we have a difficult question to ask. Is this item essential for this expedition? Weight is a definite concern at this point, and this may be the first thing that we have to purge. We couldn't just put a winch mount on the front bumper. We'd need to basically fix it into this section here of the frame, so that when we pulled ourselves, we'd actually be pulling from the frame of the vehicle and not distorting the frame by pulling on something that wasn't structural. It's quite a serious job of fabrication, and one that we were definitely intending to do. However, in the end, we realised it came down to a choice between the risk of not being able to self-recover at some point on our way overland to Australia, or overworking our vintage Kombi and not arriving in Australia at all. This winch is a quality piece of kit, but at £77 or 35 kilos, we opted not to mount it on Boomerang. Whether we come to regret that, only time will tell. Hopefully with these upgrades we will be more self-sufficient in the challenge to come. Definitely with these modifications we feel more confident about tackling the world's roads, and a big thank you to everybody who helped us build this rig. We did not do this alone. If you want to watch our build series, click the link up here. If you'd like to see a blog post about how we have built this rig and all of the equipment that's in it, that's over there. Otherwise, subscribers, we are very much looking forward to taking you on an adventure. So we'll be seeing you next time.